There are moments in life when the breaking feels too loud to ignore. You can hear it in your soul, like glass shattering in a quiet room. It's not just the loss of something you held dear, it's the loss of a part of yourself you thought would never leave. The betrayal, the abandonment, the cruel silence from people you once trusted, it carves deep into your spirit. They didn't just walk away, they left you in pieces, as if you were nothing more than fragments too small to matter. In those moments, you ask yourself questions you never thought you'd ask. Will I ever feel whole again? Was I ever worth anything to them? You replay the conversations, the laughter, the promises that turn to dust, and every replay cuts deeper because the truth becomes clearer. They never valued what they had in you. They saw your heart as something disposable, your loyalty as something they could trade for their own comfort, and so they left. But here is what they did not understand. In the kingdom of God, brokenness is never the end. It's the beginning of transformation. The world looks at shattered pieces and sees waste. God looks at shattered pieces and sees the raw material for something untouchable. What they thought was your ending was simply God clearing the ground for a foundation that cannot be shaken. The very pain they caused is the clay in the potter's hands, being shaped into something stronger than anything they could have imagined. You see, when people break you, they expect you to stay broken. They assume you will hide, collapse, and never rise again. But God has a way of working in the unseen. He does his best building in silence. While they are celebrating your fall, God is gathering every piece they left scattered, fitting them together in ways you could never plan. And here is the divine mystery. When God rebuilds, he doesn't restore you to what you were before. He makes you something you never dreamed you could be. Your scars? They will not be signs of shame. They will be the markings of survival. Your pain? It will not be a prison. It will be the very fuel that drives your calling. Every tear you cried in secret will be woven into the very walls of what God is building in you. They will stand in awe, not because you survived, but because you thrived in ways they cannot touch, cannot break, and cannot undo. Do not despise the breaking, for it is in the breaking that God removes what cannot go with you into your next chapter. Some people had to leave because they were never meant to see the finished masterpiece. They were never meant to walk on the sacred ground God is preparing for your feet. And while they may have taken your trust, your time, or your love, they could not take your destiny. The same people who saw you fall will have to watch you rise, not by your own strength, but by the power of a God who delights in turning graves into gardens, ashes into beauty, and ruins into strongholds of glory. They left you broken, but in God's hands, broken pieces become weapons of victory. They left you shattered, but in God's blueprint, every crack becomes a place where his light can shine through. So stand still in this moment. Let him work. Let him gather what's left and shape it into something that no man, no woman, no lie, no betrayal can touch. Because when God builds you from the ground up, he builds you in such a way that your foundation is no longer in people. It is in him. And when your foundation is in him, nothing and no one can destroy what he has made. They left you broken, but God is using your pieces to build something untouchable. And soon, they will see that the breaking was not the end. It was the birth of a creation they cannot stop, a testimony they cannot silence, and a strength they cannot understand. When people walk out of your life, they rarely do so neatly. They don't just close the door, they slam it, shattering parts of you on their way out. Words are left hanging in the air like smoke from a fire. Promises lie broken on the floor. Trust, once strong, is scattered into pieces so small you wonder if you'll ever be able to gather them again. But here is where human sight fails and divine vision begins. What you see as fragments, God sees as the starting point of something beautiful. He collects every tear you've cried, every prayer whispered in the stillness of night, every ounce of strength it took just to keep breathing. None of it slips through his fingers. We often believe that when people take pieces of us, those pieces are gone forever. But in the economy of heaven, nothing is lost. Every hurt, every wound, every season of emptiness is carefully gathered by the one who knows exactly how to make it whole again. The enemy's plan is always the same: scatter you so far apart that you no longer recognize yourself, leave you feeling too broken to fight back, too weary to hope. But God's plan runs deeper. He steps into the ruins, into the dust, into the aftermath, and begins the slow, steady work of restoration. This is why you are still here. If your pieces were truly gone, if the pain had truly destroyed you, you wouldn't still be standing. But you are, not because the wound wasn't deep, but because God's hand was deeper still. Think about it. If a master artist finds a shattered piece of priceless pottery, they don't throw it away. They gather every shard because they see the value that others overlook. That is what God is doing with you. He's collecting the moments you thought were meaningless, the conversations that ended in silence, the dreams you buried, the strength you thought you had lost. He's picking them up one by one, not in haste, but with the care of someone who refuses to waste even the smallest part of your story. And when God gathers your pieces, He doesn't simply glue them back together. He reshapes them. He integrates them into something stronger, something that carries the wisdom of pain but the hope of healing. This is why your next chapter will not look like your last, because God is not in the business of replicas. He creates anew. You may feel right now like you've been reduced to fragments, like the best parts of you have been taken and trampled. But the truth is, God is already holding the pieces you think are lost, and He will use each one to form a masterpiece that is untouchable by the very hands that tried to destroy it. They left you scattered, but in God's hands, scattered doesn't mean lost. It means gathered for glory. It's natural to see your breaking as a setback, a cruel interruption to the life you were building. You had plans, you had momentum, and then betrayal struck. Abandonment took root, or circumstances you never saw coming dismantled everything you thought was secure. The walls you built around your heart were torn down, and you were left exposed, vulnerable, uncertain. But here's the hidden truth. Your breaking was never random. It is the blueprint God is using to build the version of you that nothing can destroy. In the world's eyes, the breaking of something is the end of its usefulness. But in God's kingdom, breaking is often the very beginning of becoming. A seed must break before it can grow. Bread must be broken before it can feed. Oil flows from the olive only after it has been crushed. This pattern is not accidental, it is divine design. And your life, though it may not feel like it now, is following the same pattern. The pain you endured is shaping the framework for your future. The lessons learned in loneliness are becoming the pillars of wisdom that will hold up the life God is preparing for you. Every betrayal is teaching you discernment. Every loss is giving you clarity about what truly matters. Every disappointment is chiseling away pride, fear, and dependency on the wrong people. Without the breaking, you would have been tempted to build your life on shallow foundation. With it, you are learning to anchor yourself in the unshakable. It's not that God delights in your suffering. He doesn't, but He will use it. He will draw lines from your wounds to your purpose, mapping out a design so intricate that you'll one day see why certain things had to fall apart before others could come together. The cracks in your heart, they become the channels where His strength flows in. The emptiness you feel, it becomes the very space where He fills you with a calling bigger than yourself. The enemy wants your breaking to end in bitterness. God wants your breaking to end in becoming. That's why the pain feels so personal, because it is. The enemy targeted the parts of you that were most vital to your purpose, but in doing so, he also revealed to God exactly where to build the strongest reinforcements. Think of the blueprint of a great cathedral. Before the beauty comes, there is chaos. Stones piled in disorder, dust in the air, noise everywhere. To the untrained eye, it looks like ruin, but to the architect, it is the necessary mess before the masterpiece. That is your life right now. What feels like ruin is really the layout for something breathtaking. Your breaking is not your burial. It is the drawing board for a future where you stand not as a victim of what was taken, but as the living proof of what God can build from nothing. And when it's done, those who saw you fall will not understand how you rose, because they didn't see the blueprint in the breaking. There are moments in life when God does not simply mend what was broken, He removes entirely what cannot exist in the life He is calling you to live. This is often the most painful part of the process, because it feels like loss piled upon loss. You've already endured the betrayal, the rejection, the deep wounds of abandonment. And now God begins to strip away even more: relationships, habits, environments, and even mindsets that you thought were essential. To your heart it feels unfair, to your mind it feels unnecessary, but to your destiny it is the most loving act He could ever perform. We rarely see the danger in what we cling to. People who were once blessings can, over time, become barriers. Places that once held joy can begin to hold you captive. Habits that once brought comfort can grow into chains that quietly weaken you. And because God knows the future you cannot see, He understands that some things you've been holding on to would only sabotage what He's preparing for you. So, in His mercy, He removes them. It's hard to understand while it's happening. You feel like the pruning is too severe, like He's cutting away parts of you that you've nurtured for years. But here's the truth. Just as a master gardener cuts away branches that cannot bear fruit, God cuts away anything in your life that would poison your growth. What's painful now is protection in disguise. Sometimes God allows people to leave you because their presence in your future would compromise the very thing He is building in you. They may have been part of your story, but they are not part of your destiny. You may love them, you may have fought to keep them, but God sees what you cannot. Hidden motives, spiritual dangers, or limitations that would hold you back from walking in your full calling. In a way, your expectations are limitations that would hold you back from walking in your full calling. It's also not just people. There are ways of thinking, old wounds you keep reopening, fears you secretly feed that God must remove. He will not let you carry bitterness into a season of blessing. He will not let you drag self-doubt into a place where you're meant to lead. And so, He begins the refining fire, not to destroy you, but to purify you. This removal is often misinterpreted as punishment, but it's not. It's preparation. You may be looking at your life right now and seeing empty spaces where there used to be familiar faces and comfortable routines. But to God, those empty spaces are the room He is clearing so He can place something better there, something stable, something eternal. And the irony is this: one day you will look back and thank Him for every single removal, You will see how those people, those patterns, those places you thought you couldn't live without were the very things that would have kept you broken. God is not cruel in what He takes away. He is kind enough to remove what cannot survive where He's taking you. When God rebuilds you, He does not simply patch you up and send you back into life as you were. No, He reconstructs you from the inside out so that what broke you before will never break you again. His rebuilding process is not cosmetic, it is foundational. He doesn't just restore your smile, He restores your strength. He doesn't just repair your trust, He rewrites your identity so that it is anchored in Him alone. The rebuilding starts quietly. You don't always notice it at first. One day you wake up and realize that the same words that used to pierce you now barely touch you. The same storms that used to shake you now seem like passing clouds. That's because, while you were still aching from the loss, God was laying down new pillars inside you, pillars of resilience, faith, discernment, and peace. This strength isn't built in comfort, it's forged in fire. Just as steel becomes stronger through intense heat, your character becomes unbreakable through trials. The nights you thought you wouldn't survive became the training ground for the courage you carry now. The prayers you thought were going unanswered were actually fortifying the walls of your soul. And here's the thing about God's rebuilding. It makes you untouchable in ways people don't expect. They may still speak against you, but their words can't penetrate the fortress God has built around your heart. They may try to reopen old wounds, but those wounds have been sealed by the hands of the healer. In the world's rebuilding, there is always a weakness somewhere, a place where the damage shows, a point where it can be broken again. But in God's rebuilding, there is no such flaw. What He rebuilds, He reinforces. What He restores, He strengthens. The new you is not just healed, you are fortified. You carry wisdom where there used to be naivety, patience where there used to be haste, confidence where there used to be insecurity. This is why some people will no longer recognize you, not because you've become arrogant, but because you've become rooted. You are no longer swayed by every opinion, no longer desperate for validation, no longer willing to shrink yourself to fit into places that could not hold you before. You've been rebuilt with a new set of boundaries, a deeper sense of worth, and an unshakable awareness of God's hand on your life. What's beautiful about this process is that God doesn't just rebuild you for your sake. He rebuilds you so you can be a shelter for others. The strength you've gained will one day become someone else's refuge. Your testimony will be the evidence that they too can survive their breaking. And because God Himself is the architect of your restoration, no one, not even the ones who broke you, can undo what He has done. They may have left you in ruins, but God is raising you in strength. And this time there will be no cracks for them to slip through, no doors for them to walk back in and cause the same harm. You are not who you were before the breaking. And that is exactly the point. The world teaches us to hide our scars, to cover them up as though they are marks of shame. But in God's kingdom, scars are not signs of defeat. They are testimonies of survival. They are proof that you have been through the fire, and yet you stand, not burned to ashes but refined into something unshakable. Your scars tell a story, and that story points to a strength that is not your own. When they left you broken, they thought they were writing the final chapter of your story. They thought your pain would be the thing that defined you. But God had another plan. He took the very wounds they inflicted and turned them into the evidence that His hand has been on you all along. Your scars are like open letters to the world declaring, I have been wounded, but I have also been healed. I have been abandoned, but I have also been found. I have been shattered, but I have also been restored. Consider this. A scar only exists where there has been a deep wound, but it also only forms when healing has taken place. That means your scars are living proof that you are not where you used to be. They carry the memory of pain, yes, but they also carry the mark of redemption. They show the world that even the worst moments of your life could not erase the purpose God placed in you. And your scars are not just for you, they are for those who will walk the same path. One day, someone will be standing in the exact place you once stood, feeling the same hopelessness you once felt. They will need to see someone who survived what they are going through, and when they see your scars, when they hear your story, they will realize that survival is possible. Your pain becomes their roadmap. Your restoration becomes their hope. The enemy wants you to believe that scars make you weaker, but in reality, they make you dangerous. Dangerous to the lies of the enemy, dangerous to the hopelessness he tries to spread, dangerous to the belief that God cannot heal. Every scar is a weapon in the hands of the redeemed because it tells the truth that God still heals, still restores, still makes whole. Think of the resurrected Christ. When he appeared to his disciples, he did not hide his wounds. He showed them his hands and his side. Why? Because the scars were not a sign of weakness. They were the proof of victory. In the same way, your scars are not what disqualify you. They are what qualify you to speak with authority about the God who saves. So do not hide them. Do not be ashamed of them. Wear them as living proof that what was meant to destroy you only made you a witness to the power of God. For the hands that healed you have also marked you, and those marks are evidence that His power is greater than any pain you have ever faced. One of the most profound truths about God's justice is this: He will not just restore you in secret, He will allow those who sought to break you to witness your restoration. This is not to feed your pride, but to display His glory. He knows the pain of being misjudged, of having your name dragged through the mud, of being abandoned in your lowest moment. And He also knows the vindication of rising in plain sight of those who counted you out. There is something deeply powerful about God turning the tables. The very people who underestimated you will one day have no choice but to acknowledge the transformation they cannot explain. They will see the joy they tried to steal return to you in double measure. They will watch as the peace they thought they shattered settles on you like an unshakable crown, and they will realize, though they may never say it out loud, that their attempts to destroy you only became the foundation for your rise. When Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, they thought they were erasing him from their lives forever. Yet years later, God placed Joseph in a position of power, and those same brothers had to stand before him, dependent on the very one they had betrayed. This is how God works, not just restoring, but restoring in such a way that the testimony cannot be denied. For you, this may not look like standing in a palace, but it will be unmistakable. The ones who spoke against you will have to watch the evidence of God's favor on your life. The ones who mocked your faith will have to see that faith become your fortress. The ones who thought you would never recover will have to watch you thrive in ways that cannot be explained apart from God's hand. And this is not about revenge, it's about revelation. God's aim is not to humiliate them, but to demonstrate that He is the author of your story, not them. It's about showing them and the world that no amount of betrayal, slander, or abandonment can override the plans He has for you. It is often in these moments that hearts are softened. Some who hurt you may never admit they're wrong, but others may be convicted by what they see. They will remember what they did to you, and they will have to reconcile it with the undeniable truth of where you are now. And for those who never repent, their witnessing of your rise will still serve as a reminder that God's justice is real. There is a particular satisfaction, not the bitter kind, but the holy kind, in knowing that God Himself arranged for your life to flourish in full view of those who tried to bury you. It's a quiet victory, one that doesn't need you to prove anything, because when God puts His glory on display through your life, the evidence speaks for itself. There is a vast difference between something built by human hands and something built by the hands of God. What people build can be torn down by criticism, betrayal, and the shifting winds of life. But what God builds stands immovable. It is anchored in eternity, immune to the manipulations and schemes of man. And when He uses your broken pieces to create something new, He does so with a design that no one, not your enemies, not your past, not even the devil himself, can undo. People often believe they have power over you because they've managed to hurt you before. They remember the days when their words could shake you, their actions could dismantle your peace, their absence could paralyze your spirit. But once God begins His rebuilding, that power is broken. They can no longer touch you in the same way because you are no longer the same person. When God is the architect of your new life, He lays a foundation that cannot be moved. That foundation is not built on approval, on relationships, or on achievements. It is built on His promises. And His promises are not fragile. They do not crumble under pressure. They are not dependent on whether people stay or leave, whether seasons are good or hard. They are eternal, unshakable truths that hold you steady no matter what storms come. This is why what God builds is untouchable, because it is fortified by His will and sustained by His presence. You are not being restored to a place where you can be broken again in the same way. You are being elevated to a place where the weapons that once pierced you now fall harmlessly to the ground. The same traps that once caught you will now be powerless against you, because God has changed not just your circumstances, but your spirit. Look at it this way: a fortress built by men can be breached. A fortress built by God is impenetrable, and you are that fortress. Every brick of your new life is made from both the pain you endured and the grace He poured out over you. Every wall is reinforced with wisdom, discernment, and a faith that refuses to be shaken. Every door is guarded by His hand, so nothing enters unless He allows it. This is why the ones who hurt you will not be able to do it again. Not because they've changed, but because you've been changed. They no longer have the same access. They no longer have the same influence. The version of you they broke no longer exists. What stands now is something they cannot touch, cannot shake, and cannot destroy. And it's not just about you being safe. It's about you being strong enough to step into the calling He has placed on your life. Your untouchable spirit will allow you to walk boldly into places you once feared, to love without fear of being destroyed again, to stand firm in who you are without bending under pressure. This is the glory of God's work. He does not just fix you. He makes you untouchable in the areas where you were once most vulnerable. They may have left you broken, but now you are unbreakable, not because of your strength, but because of His. And when God builds something, no man can tear it down. So here you are, not the person you once were, but the person you were always meant to become. They thought leaving you in pieces was your end, but in truth, it was only the beginning. Every shard they scattered was gathered by the hands of the one who never left you. Every wound they caused was sealed by the one who heals beyond measure. And now, you stand not as a victim of their breaking, but as the living testimony of God's building. This journey has not been easy. You've walked through valleys of loneliness, cried tears that only God counted, and faced days when it seemed impossible to go on. But in every moment of silence, in every unseen prayer, He was working. He was taking the dust of your ruins and shaping them into walls of strength. He was turning your scars into declarations of His glory. And soon, if not already, the very ones who doubted you, betrayed you and abandoned you will see what God has done. They will see the joy that is untouchable, the peace that is unshakable, the strength that is unexplainable. They will realize, whether they admit it or not, that the story they tried to end has only just begun. So do not despise the breaking. Do not curse the day they walked away, for the same moment that felt like your undoing was the moment God began the work that no man could touch. And when His work is finished, you will carry something that no betrayal can steal, no lie can weaken, and no storm can wash away. They left you broken, but God is using your pieces to build something untouchable, and when He is the builder, the masterpiece will stand forever. Harry? How did you say it?